Great. So our last and final speaker is our keynote speaker of the day, and that is Mike Sangiacomo. He is president and CEO of Recology. Recology is an integrated waste, recycling, and organics company operating over 60 companies in California, Oregon, and Washington. So thank you, Mike, for being our closing keynote for the day. We really appreciate what you have to share.
Thank you, Leslie. To know I'm all that's keeping you from doing something maybe a little more fun. Well, thank you. That is not, is there, can you click to the next slide, please? There we go. So Leslie told you a little bit about Recology. We operate in about 140 communities along the West Coast. San Francisco happens to be our biggest community and served, and it's also where we started, where we're headquartered. So regarding wasting less in America, we started all these programs that we have here in the city. We've had a lot of success moving towards zero waste with them here, and I think there's a lot that can be learned here from this. It takes a few things. It takes participation, it takes innovation, and we think it takes accountability to get closer and closer to zero waste. And each of those has to be paired with some things. Participation takes a lot of customer education, which is something we do a lot of. Innovation comes with investment, in some cases a very serious amount of investment. And accountability has to be principally on producers of materials, we believe, to make this work. So can you click to the next slide, please? So I just want to give you a few examples of commercial customers in San Francisco that are doing things that are helping us achieve these goals. First one, a company called Veritable Vegetable. They actually they're an organics produce wholesaler. They have a 99% diversion rate. They've done that in part by making sure they don't get deliveries and things that can't be recycled. They won't accept it that way. They tell their suppliers what they will accept and what they won't. Recology has conducted a number of staff trainings for them. We've done site visits. We've assisted with right-sizing service and maximizing waste diversion. We have provided waste stream reports, answered lots and lots of questions for them regarding waste separation best practices. We actually nominated Veritable Vegetable for the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce Excellent Business Award in Sustainability, and they won. Very well deserved. Skoma's is a restaurant that prior to the pandemic was doing about $15 million of business through that restaurant annually. And again, through a lot of help from us, we showed them how to do proper waste separation, talked about how to properly acquire the materials they use, and they started composting over 15 years ago, and they now have a restaurant that diverts almost 90% of its waste. And the third one is probably the most fun. It's not something you would think about when you think about Major League Sports. The San Francisco Giants, one of the few things they've won in the last few years is something called the Green Glove Award. It's actually given out in Major League Baseball to the team that has the highest waste diversion rate of any Major League Baseball park. They diverted 94% of the material in that park that came into that park in 2018. The Giants collected 9 successive Green Glove Awards between 2008 and 2016. I can't remember who beat them out in 2017, but again, they won it again in 2018. So they collected nine consecutive, and then in 2018 won their 10th Green Glove. And we have partnered with them to develop customer signage, outfitting them with the right containers, working with the back of the house stuff to make sure they bring in materials in the right kinds of containers and not accept stuff that isn't recyclable. One of the real big successes there. Can you click to the next slide? So I'm going to share a couple of examples of infrastructure investment that have assisted us in helping San Francisco get to its high diversion rates. A lot of this is things we've done at our own facilities, but they're paid for by ratepayers through the charges we make. But they've helped us get really far along on achieving the city's goals. So we've installed some robotics at Recycle Central Pier 96, the major recycling plant for the city of San Francisco. So artificial intelligence technology improves sorting accuracy, reduces contamination of a variety of plastic streams, some other products that we run through there. We also have a number of compost facilities, a couple of which take San Francisco's products. We have 8 of them in our company, 5 in California, 3 in Oregon. Significant investments have gone into those, but between the 3-cart system that we utilize, the education that we make available to customers, an amazing high number of them take advantage of that, and the other support, it's allowed our composting operations to overtake blue bin material as the largest component of San Francisco's waste diversion and path to zero waste. In fact, to date, San Francisco has diverted over 2 million tons of organic material. Significant amount of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions as a result of that. Next slide, please. Accountability. So here's an example of what I mean by accountability. So I presume you've all been very aware of the issue with plastics. It's come into focus as the element in the waste stream that has the least clear path to sustainability, the least amount of recovery, the least path towards a circular economy. So it enters our recovery systems sometimes as a commodity, oftentimes as a contaminant, and ends up in a landfill. That we, and in this case, Recology and the rest of the waste industry continue to make investments to improve the sorting of plastics, all that probably funded by ratepayers. But we realized not all that long ago that we were a cog in a broken system. So there was a 60-minute story at the end of 2018 that was filmed in Recycle Central here in San Francisco. We weren't a part of the story, but it was filmed in our plant. And after listening to that, it sounded to me like we weren't even a part of the solution. And so with some help from some of my colleagues, we wrote an op-ed that appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle in December of 2018, challenging the waste industry the plastics industry to work with us on trying to find solutions for these products that they produced. We reached out to the plastics industry, and after a long time, finally got a meeting with some folks at the industry association, and as you can imagine, that got nowhere. So we then decided to collaborate with some of our California legislators and on Senate Bill 54 and AB 1080, which went quite far through the process, but managed to die on the floor when the plastics industry spent a lot of money on lobbyists that prevented that from happening. So with that, we decided to take an alternate route. We'd always thought might be necessary. We hoped we could get there otherwise, but it didn't work out. So please, next slide, please. So we wrote what is now called the California Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. Had a lot of help from a lot of very knowledgeable people around this industry. And proposed it to go on the ballot. We began the signature gathering process. It's a people's initiative, so it would require, next slide please, would require somewhere around 620 something thousand signatures to get on the ballot. And we began this process, and we're doing really, really well. We were surprised how fast the signatures were coming in, and then we all went to shelter in place, and the signature gathering stopped. We appealed to the state and learned that the only way to get where we wanted to be was, if you click to the next slide, was to file a lawsuit against our dear friend Alex Padilla, the Secretary of State. He was represented in this by another dear friend, Xavier Becerra, the Attorney General of the state of California, and they very quickly at a hearing said, we recognize the problem with getting these things certified for elections. So they worked with us and gave us an extension of time to gather the signatures. We did, as you saw on that prior slide. We've submitted 872,000 plus signatures for this effort. 623,000 required. We believe we have more than enough to get the ballot measure qualified. We won't know that until probably end of January. All the stuff over the presidential election's got to get out of the way before the Secretary of State's office reviews those signatures and tells us if we've raised enough valid ones or not. But that we think that'll happen. We think that it will be on the November 2022 ballot. That is, I believe, the next statewide election where this kind of stuff will be on. We've had brands like Driscoll's, the berry companies, Mars, Apple, all reaching out to us on a pretty regular basis, trying to figure out how their material fits with the goals that we have of creating a zero waste world. The ballot initiative seeks to accelerate that process, to encourage collaboration and innovation, and require manufacturers of plastic to come to the table financially. We think that's the only way to get their attention. So we need to do more towards getting towards that circular economy. So next slide, please. So over the last year, we think there's been a growing acceptance of similar frameworks to put financial management of end-of-life plastic packaging in the producer's hands. There was a piece of federal legislation, I think it was called the Break Free from Plastics Act, that was pushing for extended producer responsibility, where the polluter pays. Failed to get through Congress, but we think it'll be back. And we think that's something that we should have at the national level, but in the meantime, we will be pushing here in California with our initiative to try and accomplish that. And while our focus today is on our domestic activities, it's important to note Europe is taking action as well. The European Union Congress has approved a plastic tax on non-recycled plastic waste, which will be in effect on January 1st of 2021. We think that's an absolute necessary step in the right direction. So during this COVID pandemic, we continue to see progress towards zero waste. Using our activity in San Francisco as an example, it's clear that participation paired with education, innovation, which sadly requires significant investment, and producer accountability will be the cornerstone of the future success throughout the rest of our country. And that's what I prepared for you. I think I came in 10 seconds short. I'll give that back to you, Leslie, whenever you want it. You're on mute.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's just so amazing to see just all the progress you're making on the plastics initiatives, and I really just admire your perseverance in seeing this through. So thank you. I know many of us in California and beyond appreciate the leadership role you're taking in that. So with that, we do have a few questions for you. So I'll go ahead and get started with those questions. The one that rose to the top is, how do you communicate changes in the recycling markets and the demand for cleaner material in San Francisco to San Francisco residents and commercial customers?
A number of ways. We have I'm not sure where that echo is coming from. We do have a now monthly customer newsletter. We do give updates on what's going on in the recycling markets, encourage people to sort correctly. We also have a team of what we call waste zero specialists who visit customers. It's principally the larger ones, the commercial accounts, the apartment buildings, not so much on the single family homes that we rely on the newsletter, but we're out there. Our people are visiting these customers on a fairly regular basis. That's their jobs, to make sure that the sorting is done properly, encouraging them when we see stuff in the waste stream that shouldn't be there, that talk to them about buying habits and encouraging them to acquire things that actually are recyclable rather than not. So a lot of efforts like that, and they are ongoing every day of the week. You're on mute again.
Someone's messing with my mute. So one last question. How can San Francisco make unit-based pricing, like pay-as-you-throw, work at the multi-level, at the unit level in a larger multi-family apartments? And any examples of that working?
Well, that's an interesting one. Obviously, it works with commercial accounts. It works with single-family homes and where people are paying their own bills. Apartments are always the most challenging place to get to get people to follow the guidelines that we have. We will visit apartment buildings. We will have waste zero specialists talk to gatherings of residents in those buildings. Not so much now, but we were. But that is a big issue. Apartment buildings pay the bill for all the residents. Shared containers. It's just harder than heck to figure out who in a building is not doing stuff that the way we would like, and it's very, very difficult to overcome that. We are thinking and talking with the city, sadly, about garbage cart processing, because particularly at the apartment buildings, there's still a lot of material that, they're just older buildings in the city just don't have the room for all the containers that we want them to have. People are bringing garbage and recycling and composting down from apartments into a garbage room somewhere, perhaps, and none of it's conducive to making it work the best way. So just constant education. We try and give out lots of copies of the newsletters to building managers so they can get them to tenants. But I will admit that is a huge ongoing challenge.
Definitely. I hear you with the complication of apartments. Well, I really appreciate your time being here today and sharing all the great work that you and Recology are doing. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks. All right. So last we finished the sessions for today, and we will leave the exhibit hall open from now until 2 p.m. when we officially close, 2 p.m. Pacific time. So just as a reminder, there are exhibitors on floors 1 and 2. You can use the elevator on the left hand of your screen. Check out the NICRA Players video highlights. It's a lot of great fun content and music and singing and dancing, all themed around our industry. And lastly, I recommend you engage in all the networking opportunities we have. Please visit the different tables. You can hover over anyone's avatar to see who they are. Reach out to new friends, old friends, and feel free to use the chat function. Next. Next slide is a list of the exhibitors that are located on the first and second floors. If you didn't get a chance to meet with them earlier because our table was full, please feel free to visit them anytime between now and 2 p.m. Next slide. I want to give a huge thank you to all of our platinum and gold sponsors. We really could not have made this event possible without your support. So we really appreciate the support you've given to NRC. Next slide. And that thank you also goes to our silver and bronze sponsors. So that is it for the day. I'll come on at 2 o'clock just to do a closing, but other than that, have fun on the exhibit floor, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. Thank you.